Hi, I'm Dr. Preble, and I want to now demonstrate for you and show you the 11 points, the 11 acupoints that we will be touching or tapping on in the tapping technique. There are 11 points. The first one is activating the meridians in this part of the hand, and we do that with what is called a karate chop. The second point, top of the head. Third point is the inner part of the eyebrow. I use a couple fingers. You can use the first two, middle two. Outer eye, under the eye, above the lip, below the lip, and the collarbone. You can use a few fingers in this area. Under the armpit, about 4 inches under the armpit. The next is an area called the gamut, which is the soft area between your little finger and ring finger. You can feel the tendons there, and it's the soft area in between there. You can use 2, 3, 4 fingers. And it's really more a matter of light touch. So it can even be just a light touch, or it can also be tapping. Then the next point then is the center of the chest, what they call the heart hold. A lot of people really like this one. It feels like you're kind of hugging yourself, and it's very comforting. So those are the 11 points that we use during the tapping sequence. So in doing the tapping, using the tapping technique, it's a matter of verbalizing a negative, something that is distressing you, whether it be a negative feeling, a negative disturbing thought, or a physical sensation. So at the very beginning, we will state the negative along with an affirmation, what's called the setup statement, and that is when we begin with this. Thereafter, it's just tapping on the negative or the reminder phrase. So for an example now, let's say somebody is feeling very anxious that I think of the client of mine that I write about in my blog post, the young lady who was terrified that she had cancer. So in the tapping with her, basically, this is what I had done. Starting with an affirmation along with the negative. I'm terrified I have cancer, but I'm okay. And this can be done and said 1, 2, 3 times. I'm okay, but I'm terrified I have cancer. I'm okay, I'm terrified I have cancer. To the head. I'm terrified I have cancer. Here we generally then are going to be verbalizing the negative because that's what's in our head anyhow. I'm terrified I have cancer. I'm terrified I have cancer. Terrified I have cancer. I'm so terrified I have cancer. Terrified I have cancer. And again, it can be a tapping or it can just be a light touch. Terrified I have cancer. I'm terrified I have cancer. The gamut area. I'm terrified I have cancer. And then the heart hold. I'm terrified I have cancer. You can just hold it, or there can be some tapping along with it as well. That then represents one sequence, all 11 points. So in resolving an issue, one sequence normally does not bring a person's distress level down to 0. But typically, one sequence can reduce a person's level of distress by 1, 2, 3 points, maybe even more. So by distress level, I'm referring to what is called a SUDS scale, subjective unit of distress scale. So that's anywhere from 0 to 10, 10 being the worst. So for the woman who was afraid she had cancer, when we started off, her level of fear was a solid 10. At the end of the first sequence, it came down a couple points, maybe about a 7. So we did one more sequence. I'll go through it again. I'm okay, but I'm terrified I have cancer. I'm terrified I have cancer. Terrified I have cancer. I'm terrified I have cancer. I'm terrified I have cancer. I'm so afraid I have cancer. And the verbiage can change some. I'm so afraid I have cancer. I'm so afraid I have cancer. So afraid I have cancer. So afraid I have cancer. I'm so afraid I have cancer. Now, in doing that with her, that brought her anxiety level down a couple more notches. She may have, at that point in time, been down to perhaps about a 4. So we did another sequence, and oftentimes I will also have people then add an affirming statement along the way to not just be focusing on the negative, but to also, though, help them connect more with a sense of positive and hopefulness that is there as well. So it's not about denying the negative. It's also not denying the fact that there is a sense of kind of oftentimes innate optimism and hopefulness. So the next sequence went something like this. I'm okay, but I'm terrified I have cancer. I'm terrified I have cancer. Terrified I have cancer. Terrified I have cancer, but I'm going to be okay. Terrified I have cancer, but I know I'm going to be okay. I'm afraid I have cancer, but I'm going to be okay. So afraid of having cancer, but I'm going to be okay. So afraid of having cancer, but I'm going to be okay. So afraid I have cancer, but I'm going to be okay. Afraid I have cancer, but I'm going to be okay. I'm afraid I have cancer, but I'm going to be okay. It took about 3-4 sequences for her to get to a point of in astonishment saying, I don't know what you did. I don't know if you hypnotized me, but my fear is gone. I'm still thinking about what the doctor said, that he thinks I have cancer, but I'm not feeling afraid right now. And that is what the tapping can do. It can tap into, figuratively, our feeling response, into the limbic system, into our fear brain, and really kind of turn down the volume in the amygdala, and really reduce our level of anxiety without just relying on logic and the cognitive stuff, because oftentimes our fear is impervious to logic. A lot of our fear is amenable to logic and rationale, of course, but a lot of times a certain amount of it is utterly resistant. The tapping is incredibly powerful in just really being able to make a modification in that feeling state, even though it doesn't change the facts. But it also can help us sort of look at the facts and consider the facts differently and look at other aspects of it. For example, this abiding sense that was underneath the surface for her, that basically she had confidence that she's going to be okay, that somehow she will be okay. And she was able to really kind of connect more with that as well then too. Thanks. Hope that this was helpful. And there will be more of these to come. Thanks.